Welcome back to the show. This is Right Wing Rico, and this is just another disappointing day when it comes to this goddamn Russia Ukraine idiot. Okay, for one thing, the Russians and the Ukrainians are both white. They should both be combined fighting against the hordes of brown people coming from the South and invading Europe and the Northern Hemisphere. But instead, the World Economic Forum has them pit together. No matter who you think is going to win in the end, it's just going to be a million dead white men or more, completely wiped from the earth. These are wars that are meant to bring white people, white males, to die. They are fighting the wrong enemy, and we can prove that. This misleading headline is ridiculous. They're saying President Trump deserves an apology from liberal and fake news reporters. We did it. Trump did the impossible. He just secured a ceasefire with the Ukraine. That's not the impossible. That actually does no good because, for one thing, the Ukrainians are idiots. Like I said, these wars are never meant to be won. They're just meant to be sustained long term. They're just meant to drag out the death of white soldiers and white men. Remember, the Europeans are the only really white people left on earth besides the Australians. And guess who's all a part of NATO? White countries with white male soldiers who are all going to be wiped in this war if they want to expand it. Luckily, Trump said no, and they're not going in without Trump. Trump just pretty much saved the whole white race for the most part. Because if the women aren't having children with white men, and the white men that are left are now being deleted, fighting unnecessary wars in Russia, fighting alongside Nazis, well, then you have nothing left. And remember, for the last, since recorded human history, has been white people that have stabilized and created our societies that we live in right now. Like them or not, our whole systems or governments come from white men. If you molest children or you commit murder in the United States, a white man in a uniform is going to show up to arrest you. If your house catches on fire, all those black lesbians in LA are not going to show up to save you. A white man in a uniform will. So you can understand why the World Economic Forum wants to get rid of white men by pitting them against each other. It's crazy. These wars would be more noticeable if they were in India. Indians versus Pakistanis. Okay, two people from the same ethnic group fighting against each other. At the end, it's a bad look for both of them, and their people just die. If African countries were at war with each other like this, people would say the same thing. But because they're white, no one's making that correlation. So I will continue to be the only person publicly speaking out about it. Whether anybody watches these videos or not, this does need to be something that should be addressed. This is a clown show. The Ukrainians are saying agreed. The Ukrainians have no cards, like Trump said. They have nothing. They have no legs to stand on. You just do what you're told. You don't agree or disagree with anything. You don't have the option. We're not. Why are we even talking to you? You are not the person in control. You have nothing. So what they're saying is that Zelensky said he agreed to a ceasefire under two conditions. First condition, the U.S. starts sharing intel on the battlefield with the Ukrainians again. Second condition, the U.S. gives them more weapons. If this is a ceasefire, why do you need weapons and why do you need the intel so you can know how to target people with those weapons? Obviously, the Russians are not fucking idiots. This does not make sense to me. This is not going to make sense to the Kremlin. This is not going to make sense to Putin. This doesn't make sense to anyone. The Russians are going to laugh at the Americans and ask them to leave. You got to understand, all of Kursk in Russia, the small little area that the Ukrainians took over, the Russians let them take it. The Russians have let them occupy it. The Russians have all the time in the world. What they're doing is they're finding out and learning the strategies of the Ukrainians so they can better grind them up into a pulp. It's all a trap. Kursk is gone. They're losing their foothold. They either lost it an hour ago or they're going to lose it sometime tonight. That's over. They're literally going to push on Kiev. Before any of this can be agreed upon, the Russians will already be in Kiev. There's no time. But the thing is, they don't want to save themselves. They're giving orders to literally sacrifice and suicide themselves. Someone is telling them, and someone is paying them to die. But why? You're specifically asking this group of genetically white people to literally throw their lives away for nothing. And you're baiting them in the same way you got people to do it in the United States. You offered them money. How did they get people to take the jab? Well, you offered them government jobs where they didn't have to do any work. And they were even wondering for a while, well, why are you paying me and there's no supervisor? Why did you give me this job? I have no experience. I'm very lazy. And it's because they wanted to buy your body. That's the same thing as what's happening in the Ukraine. This is a depopulation agenda against men, but they're going after specific men. I thought it was only black ones, but they're actually going after white men too. The black ones were jabbed, but this one right here, they're using war, kinetic war. And the Russians are doing a very good job of grinding down the Ukrainians, which have the strongest army in all of Europe. All the rest of NATO combined could not have stood a chance against the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians didn't stand a chance against the Russians. When I say all of NATO, I do mean the United States as well, which is why the Europeans, the Australians, and the Ukrainians with the Americans did all not just fight the Russians at once at the same time. Why would you, if you were planning on putting boots on the ground, why would you have not just done that in the beginning when the Ukrainians had all the weapons, all the ammunition, and all the men? It's because they want one side to be destroyed completely by the other. They want all of those men from all these different countries, all white, to be melted, to be turned to dust. And they have successfully done it. But it would have been harder to do if they've already came in a big group. So what they did was they purposely made them all trickle in. And now that the Ukrainians are gone, they're saying, well, let us trickle in our little minuscule forces from the UK, and then France, then Germany. They're purposely deleting these men from the face of the earth, and no one's the wiser. How am I the only one that can see what's actually happening? For one thing, nothing was accomplished. Saying that the Ukrainians agreed to something that the Russians didn't is a waste of your breath. You wasted a trip all the way to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. You wasted the Crown Prince's time. You wasted the Crown Prince's time. This is what Rubio says. Listen, but listen to what he's not saying. He's not saying that the Russians agreed.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable, and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally we both want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Its Majesty, for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process, and we're very grateful to them for hosting us here today. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians, and we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball is now in their court. And but again, the president's objective here is, number one, above everything else, he wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate. Today,
what kind of fucking idiot would start a fight with someone? You guys are fighting, and then the person that you're beating the dog shit out of, who has a weapon, right? Turns out they left the bullets of the gun in their backpack. You're beating the hell out this person. The person says, wait, stop. Pause. Let's take a break. I want to get a fruit roll-up out of my bag. That way we can just be friends again. I'm going to give you a fruit roll-up. What kind of idiot's going to say, you know what? Let's make peace. Go to your backpack. Your guns are in, your ammo for your guns in there too. But I'm going to believe that you're going to grab the fruit roll-up. Granted, this is not the first time you asked for a break so you can go to your backpack and grab a fruit roll-up and you came back with a gun. Literally, the Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 agreements, if you talk to the former chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, She said Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 were both fake. Those were never real agreements. They were just trying to buy time to build up the military in the Ukraine to fight the Russians. The Russians are already telling you there's not going to be a ceasefire. There is no agreement. The only agreements we can make are if you want to do a mineral deal with us because we now own these parts of we own the whole Ukraine. You cannot. Why would they allow the Ukrainians a ceasefire so they can move in more troops, restock their ammo? Because right now the Russians have crippled their supply lines, destroy most of their energy infrastructure. Why would you give them time to fix these things and regroup just so that they can come back and try it again? They've already said they want to kill Putin, destroy the Russian Federation, and break up the country into different oblasts and give them to separate governors. We saw what other parts of the world turned into when we tried to do regime change. Right now, they're executing Christians in Syria. But I remember 2 months ago, all you people, all you idiots on the internet were clapping about Assad having to leave Syria. Now we're watching people be executed because of their religious beliefs. You got to be careful what you wish for. This was a huge waste of time. The Russians are going to laugh in your face for wasting their time. Sergei Lavrov already said this will not work. This is not a solution. For one thing, those parts, the Ukrainians are asking for the Russians to leave. Those are already parts of the Russian Federation's legally. They're actually in their constitution. The Russians could not give those places back and leave if they wanted to. That's not how this works. This is not an even match. You don't have a say-so. If anything, the Russians were going to have mercy, but I don't understand why. You're just going to have to confront this same issue 5, 8, 10 years from now. Get it over with. Even a ceasefire means that now you're going to stop wherever the battle lines are, and NATO can just move into there. Wherever in the Ukraine, if there's a ceasefire, wherever in the Ukraine the border starts, wherever there's going to be basically a borderland, an area in between, a buffer zone. Wherever the buffer zone in the Ukraine is going to be, it's like NATO can now just move that much closer to Moscow. It doesn't make sense when you're looking for fairness. We would not allow. We're barely allowing to Canadians to talk shit about turning off the power on American citizens. We're allowing it barely, but it won't be soon before long before a bald eagle in a boot will be in that nice maple syrup filled asshole of these Canadians. But I guess we don't want to seem like hypocrites, so we're going easy on them because we're expecting the Ukrainians, the Russians, to accept some nonsensical deal with the Ukraine while they regroup. They've already shown that you can't trust them, and you can't trust us with them. You cannot. Boris Johnson is the one who talked them out of taking a peace deal with the Russians 3 years ago. None of this was necessary unless you purposely wanted to kill off one particular ethnic group in the world. And that's happening. White on white violence is happening in the Ukraine right now when there are hordes of enemies flooding Italy, Greece, the UK, France. Have you seen the Islamist terrorists and what they're bringing into Europe? Hordes of them. That's who they should be fighting, but instead they're wasting time fighting each other. It doesn't make any sense unless you understand that there's a depopulation agenda. And to get to the real people that you want, there are certain people that are in place that protect them, not even on purpose, but you got to get them out of the way. There are certain groups of people that are protected by other groups. And that's why you have proxy wars between each other, because there are certain people that are in the middle that are protected that you're trying to get to. This is just a big waste of time. This was an idiotic waste of time. Trump didn't get anywhere with this. Trump knows Vladimir Putin is not going to. This is a stupid deal. I'll be honest with you. This was just a waste of time to give the Russians more time so they can get closer and closer into Kiev. And by the time there's a peace deal, what they're going to do is Zelensky or whoever's alive that's going to claim to be the president of the Ukraine, They're just going to be a president in exile. They're going to operate basically a cover band for the Ukraine, but they're going to be based in Miami or based in London somewhere. There won't be a Ukraine. There will be a government that they're going to run outside the Ukraine while the Ukraine is occupied by the Russians. They will just have to be a government in exile. Won't be the first time it's happened. It's happened with African nations when their prince was able to escape, and they are basically just doing a pretend mock government of their former government that the UN pretends is still around because they couldn't defend them and they're embarrassed. And that seems like that's what's going to happen here. There is no more Ukraine. The Ukraine is gone. They forfeited. The Russians understand that this is a white depopulation agenda. That's why they don't want to kill these Ukrainians. Every chance Putin has gotten, he's literally saying, these are our cousins. We don't want to kill them off. They're forcing us. We don't want to do this. We wanted peace. We didn't want Ukraine. They wanted you to stay neutral. They didn't ask for anything. NATO's not going to be there. Russia's not going to be there. We just need you to be a buffer zone between us and Europe. But you want to join NATO and bring missiles to our border, to the border with Russia, and let NATO build up all over the Ukraine. We couldn't allow that. Idiotic. And it's reckless to even think that the Russians would be dumb or pathetic enough to even accept something like this. I say this is America first, and this is why I'm talking about is because our troops are expected. Well, now we got Trump, so our troops are going to be safe from this, but our money went into this, and we want to know what the hell happened to our money. Where did it go? Who did it go to? How do we get it back? It's just a waste. But Putin understands that. He doesn't want to kill more white people if he doesn't have to, and he's trying not to. The Ukraine soldiers, if they're smart, they will surrender. The Russians are not killing them. They're taking them hostage. They're giving them quarter. They're not slaughtering them. They need to surrender. They really don't have a choice. There is no war. This war was over before it began. Anyway, like and subscribe, share the video, hit that like button for me. Follow me on YouTube. We have another video coming up in about 20 minutes. I'm going to eat some tacos and go over some more bullet points. Let me see here. What else was there that I wanted to mention about this? This is extremely unrealistic, and the Russians would never allow these. It just doesn't make any sense. Moscow will just respond to this with a laugh. I don't even think they're going to do a press conference about this because this is not a serious offer. But if anything, it just sounds like Trump is doing Moscow a favor, buying them more time because the Ukraine should fall. It's a very corrupt country. All of its people, for the most part, have left. More than half the country has already left. And the rest of the country is sacrificing their men. The women are dancing it up in Kiev with the children of the oligarchs that have not been conscripted. The Ukraine should go. They're never going to be a part of NATO. They're never going to be a part of the EU because they have a destroyed economy. They don't produce anything, and they're corrupt. Russia, the Europeans are corrupt. They're even more corrupt. They're so corrupt that you can pay them, and they'll sell you the lives of their soldiers to kill. And they probably, when they don't feel any type of way about it, they're over in Monaco right now. Tons of Ukrainians with their Bentleys and all these exotic cars that no one knows where they come from in such a poor country that's not even a part of the EU. Magically, all these people got money. They're just popping up all over Europe. That's corruption. But it's corruption that generated that actually benefits more people. Our corruption over here in the U.S., it did benefit a lot of people, but not the public at large. I think people will turn a blind eye to corruption if you spread the corruption's benefits around. Right now, our corruption is being hoarded. If I would have known that I could have just made up an invoice for $900,000 and fax it over to USAID with my account number, and they would have sent me $900,000, I would have been against Trump. I would have been against Doge. I would have been against Musk. I probably would set up Tesla. I own a Tesla. I would have set my own goddamn Tesla on fire. If I would have known that I could just keep sending invoices to USAID and they were going to pay them and there was no oversight. What? Fuck Elon Musk in that case. But because they didn't call me and put me in on this hustle, I'm with Musk. I'm with Trump. Shut it all down. Y'all should have hit up the right people. And then you could have explained it to the public. Trump even told us, we're in Syria. We're occupying 1/3 of Syria for the oil. That's going to make our gas prices cheaper. We're there for the oil. We like the oil. Trump put us in on that hustle. He let us know that this is why we're here. This is the scam. This is the move. We're not pretending we're here to defend the lives of Syrians and spreading justice and freedom. We're here for oil. He told us how it would benefit us. Makes sense. The rest of these people just greedy. They didn't bring us in on it. They got to chip us in, or it's not going to work. So because of that, we got to get rid of this corruption here in our country, because it does none of us any good. But we're damn sure not about to let it do other countries and other people in other places a lot of good while doing nothing for us. That doesn't make any sense to an American. Yeah, this is just things are just getting, it's just crazy. It's unrealistic. And the Ukraine agrees to a ceasefire the same way a dog agrees to go to an animal shelter. Does it really agree to go to the shelter, or does it not have a choice? It got picked up by animal control and it goes to the shelter. Okay, that's not, you don't get to choose. That's not up to you. You're not in a position to say, I mean, it wouldn't matter if you agree to a ceasefire or not. You're not the one firing. You're the one getting bombed on. You're not getting that. That's why I'm like, this was not made to be won. This was made just to get a bunch of people deleted from the earth, and they'll never reproduce. And when their women are being spread all over Europe, well, now who's occupying Europe? Africans, Arabs, Indians. Their whole entire race watered down now. No more pure white people. And when I say that, there's a lot of people that celebrate that. That's why I'm telling you, there is something happening where they're doing this on purpose to make, there's a certain group of people, there's a lot of people that are happy about it. Don't give them what they want. Say no to these wars. If only the corruption that is influencing Zelensky and the rest of the gays, and they're being controlled by the World Economic Forum, if only they could see what this was really about and what it was really for, they would literally realize who their real enemies are. But they don't. So I guess we're going to just have to keep making shows like this until somebody hears it. I guess from my mouth to God's ears, right? Like and subscribe, share the video, and I'll be back in about an hour. This is Right Wing Rico, Safe and Effective Podcast. Here goes a word from our sponsor, cosigning.com. If you're looking for an apartment, but you don't have a friend or a family member willing to be your cosigner, cosigning.com has a network of qualified cosigners that will be happy to help you acquire your new home. Thank you very much, and we'll be back shortly.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.